Her name is Rachel Zegler.
No.
Zegler? I don't know. Zegler. Okay, there's something wrong with this person.
What if the fairy tale you grew up loving turned into a real-life cautionary tale? That's exactly what happened with Disney's attempt to remake a timeless classic, one that was supposed to be a surefire hit, no questions asked. Instead, it became the talk of the internet for all the wrong reasons. Think of it like a kingdom once beloved, now facing dragons of criticism from every corner. But how did a movie that promised nostalgia, star power, and modern flair end up in the middle of an online firestorm? Why did a newcomer meant to embody innocence and grace spark so much outrage that even the dwarfs got dragged into controversy? And what can we learn from the behind-the-scenes chaos that threatened to topple one of Hollywood's most iconic brands? By the end of this story, you'll see how one actress's flippant remarks, a confused production team, and a legendary studio's questionable decisions collided to create one of the biggest live-action disasters in recent memory. From questionable casting to near-constant PR nightmares, we'll peel back every layer of the meltdown. Buckle up. This is a tale more dramatic than any talking mirror could conjure. Live-action Disney remakes have been box office giants for years. Movies like Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and The Lion King raked in piles of cash by tapping into fans' nostalgia and updating beloved tales with glitzy effects and star-studded casts. It seemed only natural that eventually the House of Mouse would turn its gaze toward the film that started it all, the 1937 animated Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. For many Disney devotees, Snow White is sacred ground. It's not just another cartoon. It's the foundation of the entire Disney empire. Without its success over 8 decades ago, who knows if Walt Disney Studios would have become the media behemoth it is today. So when fans heard about a new adaptation, complete with modern visuals, a fresh script, and a rising star in the lead, excitement was nearly guaranteed. Rachel Zegler was one of those new talents who seemed poised for stardom. She soared into the public eye after landing a coveted role in West Side Story, and many believed her vocal skills and youthful energy made her a prime candidate to bring Snow White into the 21st century. Even casual audiences, who might not have known her name yet, could be intrigued. After all, if Disney had deemed her worthy to fill those iconic shoes, she had to be something special, right? Early on, the buzz was strong. People imagined a lavish production that could capture the essence of the 1937 classic while adding the flair and cinematography modern audiences love. The story practically sells itself. A beloved princess and evil queen, 7 dwarfs with big personalities, and a fairy tale romance that's recognized worldwide. What could possibly go wrong? As it turned out, everything. Right when the hype was building, the project began to swerve off track, and no amount of Disney magic or marketing would bring it back. Audiences had no idea that the star they'd pinned their hopes on was about to set social media ablaze with controversy. But that was only the beginning. Despite stepping into the role of a princess known for her innocence and kindness, Rachel Zegler quickly made waves by critiquing the original 1937 movie. In interviews, she called it outdated and implied the story lacked modern values. While plenty of people agree that older films can contain outdated notions, the issue was that her remarks came off as dismissive, especially toward a classic many hold dear. Fans didn't just shrug it off. They felt insulted. For millions, the original Snow White isn't just an old cartoon. It's an iconic piece of cinema history that paved the way for animated films everywhere. Hearing the new face of Snow White belittle the film was like a personal slap in the face, one that created immediate hostility. Some chalked it up to inexperience, suggesting Rachel was simply expressing an opinion that got taken out of context. But in the 24/7 world of social media, first impressions stick like glue. Soon, headlines popped up everywhere, accusing the actress of insulting the very legacy she was hired to honor. The chatter became so loud that even Disney, known for tight-lipped damage control, struggled to keep the controversy from escalating. What made it worse was her tone. Instead of politely suggesting that the story needed a fresh angle, she labeled the original Snow White as boring, archaic, and irrelevant. In doing so, she seemed to dismiss the era in which it was made and the cultural significance behind it. That's a big no-no when your target audience includes hardcore Disney enthusiasts who grew up dreaming of princesses and talking forest animals. But her verbal missteps weren't limited to just one interview. Every time a new clip surfaced, the comments multiplied, and fans got angrier. It was like a self-inflicted wound that wouldn't stop bleeding. People began to question whether she actually liked her role at all, or if she just saw it as another Hollywood gig. In a realm where fan goodwill is everything, it's not great to give viewers a reason to turn on you before the film even hits theaters. And the controversies only mounted from there. When Peter Dinklage spoke out against the depiction of dwarfs in the upcoming Snow White, Disney scrambled to address his critique. He argued it was regressive to feature dwarfs in stereotypical roles. On one hand, you had a respected actor advocating for more nuanced portrayals. On the other, legions of little person performers were furious because Disney seemed to be yanking away the few roles that historically went to them. The studio was caught between trying to be progressive and trying not to erase job opportunities. As the debate raged, the public got wind of behind-the-scenes confusion. Rumor had it Disney was panicking over whether to include dwarfs at all. Early leaked images seemed to show a weird mix of regular-sized actors and CGI creations standing in for the classic band of 7. Fans were baffled. What about the old favorites named Sleepy, Bashful, Grumpy, and so on? Weren't they an essential part of the story's charm? Suddenly, a story that should have been about an underdog princess and her whimsical woodland friends became a minefield of representation politics. Online arguments broke out. Some insisted the dwarfs belong in the film, believing Disney could refresh them respectfully. Others felt the entire concept was outdated and needed a top-to-bottom rework. Disney, famous for controlling every detail of its marketing, could barely contain the leaks and the criticisms. The entire fiasco only deepened concerns about the direction of the movie. If the studio couldn't settle on how to handle the dwarfs, arguably one of the most iconic elements of Snow White, how could they keep the rest of the production from slipping into total chaos? In the beloved fairy tale, the evil queen's primary obsession is her fading beauty. She's consumed by envy towards Snow White, convinced that her stepdaughter's youth and innocence far outshine her own. That dynamic is the story's engine. Without it, there's no reason for Snow White to flee into the forest or eventually get tricked by a poisoned apple. So when Disney cast Gal Gadot as the evil queen, some eyebrows rose. The actress, known for her role as a fierce Amazonian warrior in another blockbuster franchise, is widely hailed as one of Hollywood's most striking stars. Her on-screen presence drips with confidence. Could audiences realistically buy the idea that Gal Gadot's evil queen feels overshadowed by Rachel Zegler? Immediately, the internet erupted with jokes and memes. Some folks believed the rivalry would never be convincing, given Gal's global reputation for glamour. Others simply laughed that the new Snow White shouldn't be the fairest of them all, because the actress playing her didn't exactly evoke the sweet, wide-eyed innocence the original cartoon portrayed, especially after her negative comments about the classic film. Even those who gave the casting a chance worried about the on-screen chemistry. Would the storyline fall flat if viewers questioned the entire premise of jealousy? The whole film hinges on that tension between the two characters. Without it, Snow White becomes just another movie about a girl wandering in the woods with bizarre mystical creatures. Meanwhile, Disney's PR nightmare was about to hit a fever pitch. Behind closed doors, one can only imagine the frantic meetings happening at Disney headquarters. They'd shelled out a significant budget for lavish sets, CGI wizardry, and high-profile casting. Now, the film star was trending for all the wrong reasons. The dwarfs were in limbo, and fans were mocking the evil queen's motive. The meltdown was practically unstoppable. Rachel Zegler's continued media appearances added fuel to the fire. She tried to backtrack her controversial statements by praising the essence of the original. She'd give tearful interviews about how she truly respected the classic and wanted to bring it to a new generation. But the public wasn't buying it. Countless reaction videos dissected her every word, playing older clips side by side with her new claims. It looked disingenuous at best and manipulative at worst. Meanwhile, trailers and teasers trickled out, but they seemed overshadowed by the chatter over whether the new Snow White was even salvageable. The marketing team's attempts to pivot the conversation toward positive talking points, like updated songs or a more empowered princess, never really stuck. YouTubers, entertainment bloggers, and social media pundits all zeroed in on the controversies instead. Disney is no stranger to blowback. They've weathered everything from theme park missteps to other remakes that faced harsh critical reviews. But this time felt different. The negativity was potent and unrelenting, making it clear that no matter how much the studio tried to pivot, the conversation kept circling back to the negativity swirling around Rachel Zegler and the project's questionable choices. By the time the film was finally ready for release, some fans had already decided to boycott. Others were content to watch the train wreck from afar, waiting to see if the final product could possibly overcome the avalanche of bad press. But it was about to get worse once box office numbers came in. For months, industry insiders debated whether controversy might actually help the movie's performance by generating buzz. Sometimes, negative headlines can pique curiosity enough to draw a crowd. The problem for Disney was that this negative buzz didn't translate to ticket sales at all. When Snow White finally opened, its box office take was dismal compared to the inflated expectations set by past Disney live-action hits. Early estimates predicted the film would rake in hundreds of millions worldwide in its first weekend. Instead, it limped toward numbers so small, people were calling it a historic flop. The domestic total looked grim, and international markets didn't bail it out. Critics pounced, publishing scathing reviews that echoed the fan complaints online. Some deemed the story soulless and confused, while others argued that the film tried too hard to modernize a fairy tale originally steeped in 1930s charm. The reworked script seemed to lose the timeless magic, and even the lush visuals couldn't distract from a lead actress who had alienated much of the audience before the movie even began. In theaters that first weekend, seats were noticeably empty. Moviegoers who did show up posted pictures on social media of near-deserted auditoriums. That scene isn't uncommon for a small indie project, but for a Disney classic reboot with a massive marketing budget, it was shocking. Many factors played into the failure. Rachel Zegler's off-putting remarks, the dwarfs' confusion, questionable casting, and a general sense that the film didn't respect its source material. Whatever the root cause, the cold, hard truth was that Snow White was losing money fast. For a company as big as Disney, a single flop might be a dent in the armor. But this fiasco was a glaring reminder that even the mighty House of Mouse isn't immune to colossal miscalculations. The fallout sent ripples through the industry. When a big studio invests millions, sometimes hundreds of millions, into a production that collapses at the box office, the repercussions can be severe. Rumors started swirling about Disney reevaluating its slate of upcoming remakes. Some insiders whispered that planned reboots or spin-offs might be shelved indefinitely until the dust settled. Others speculated that new leadership could step in, pushing for creative overhauls to avoid another fiasco. And then there was Rachel Zegler's future. Hollywood is a fickle place, and trust is paramount. Directors and producers don't like gambling on an actress who might disparage their project in front of the entire world. The chatter suggested some had become wary of hiring her. Even if she's talented, is it worth the risk of having your carefully crafted film overshadowed by more offhand remarks? From a broader perspective, fans themselves started questioning Disney's strategy of reimagining every classic in live-action form. Could it be that the golden formula was finally tarnishing, especially if studios didn't handle each property with the reverence fans demand? The fiasco seemed to confirm that viewers are less forgiving when you tinker with the legacy of something as iconic as Snow White, the mother of all animated fairy tales. Meanwhile, those who once championed diversity and fresh interpretations grew frustrated at the film's apparent mishandling of core elements. Modernizing a story is one thing, but losing the essence of what made it special is another matter entirely. When the creative choices and public relations meltdown overshadow your actual movie, you're left with an expensive lesson in how not to adapt a classic. Now the question was, what did everyone learn from this epic misstep? Snow White, 1937, is more than just an old cartoon. It's the bedrock of the Disney brand. Disrespecting the source material, or the fans who hold that source material close to their hearts, is practically a blueprint for disaster. At the core of this meltdown was a disconnect between modernizing a beloved tale and forgetting what made it beloved in the first place. The fiasco also highlights a crucial lesson for actors and studios. In the era of social media, everything you say can and will be used against you in the court of public opinion. A single derisive comment might go viral, forever shaping how viewers perceive you and, by extension, the film you're promoting. And for a megacorporation like Disney, failing to unify cast and marketing messages can spiral into damage you can't easily undo. Finally, there's the reminder that controversy doesn't always equal cash. The notion that any press is good press faltered here, proving that negative headlines can push people away just as easily as they can pique curiosity. When the negativity feels personal, like someone insulting a childhood favorite, audiences often choose to stay home. So where does that leave the future of fairy tale remakes? If Disney wants to keep breathing new life into its classics, it'll need to walk a delicate line. preserving the timeless appeal while embracing subtle updates that resonate with today's viewers. Doing it well can yield stunning results, but doing it badly can lead to fiascos like this one, where hype devolves into derision. A princess offended her own audience, a studio battled crippling backlash, and a film that should have soared ended up sinking under the weight of controversy. That's the real story behind this Snow White remake, a modern cautionary tale of how even the brightest brand can miss the mark if it overlooks the loyalty of its fans. With many viewers still furious over how their childhood favorite was handled, Disney may need to rethink its entire approach to remakes. Can the House of Mouse regain the trust of families who felt alienated by a star's cavalier remarks? Will classic characters ever again be updated without sparking a media maelstrom? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain, this chapter of Snow White has no fairy tale ending. A film that could have celebrated the magic of the original instead became a stark reminder that beloved stories demand respect. Disregard that lesson, and you risk losing far more than just box office dollars. You lose the goodwill of the very people who made your brand legendary. In the meantime, Disney moves on, possibly wiser for the experience, while fans continue discussing and roasting what might be the most catastrophic fairy tale retelling of this generation. Was it bound to fail from the start, or could different choices and better PR have saved it? That question will linger as Hollywood navigates the challenging waters of reimagining classic tales for modern viewers. Wherever you stand, one truth remains. In the kingdom of storytelling, the audience is the real king. Displease them at your peril. And if you take anything away from this epic meltdown, let it be a lesson in humility. Respect the crown jewels of pop culture, or watch the entire kingdom crumble.